school where there was no school for children. Now later, we started to provide food for people who didn't have enough food, medical coverage for people without health insurance, personal care items that honor your dignity, and subsidized senior housing. See what has happened from the seeds that Miss Ruby planted here on this campus.
You have to spell the word over it. If you did it wrong, you got to beat me. And people say, you got to beat me? Y'all actually got beat in school? Yes. Because he wanted us to be different. The beating wasn't to kill us. The beating was to encourage, let us know that when we have something to do in life, doesn't matter what it is, put your best effort forward. Don't let people look at you and say, well, you can't do this or you can't do that because you came from this little school. This little school has probably produced more doctors, lawyers, teachers. The reason why I said it is because my mother was a teacher, and she would come in to help me. She would be in some of her class, and I hated that. Anybody have a teacher as a parent, you know you don't want your mom at that school because you can't get away with anything. If my mom would be there and help me, she'd be out. I mean, she would be so thankful for it, but I wasn't thankful because I had my mom in my class. But it was good because we knew who we were. And what we're doing now, we are celebrating a great lady.
Yes. Amen.
Not just someone you come for this day and say, it's this Miss Ruby Forsyth, we're just celebrating a one-day thing. No, when you look around, all this is Miss Ruby and Rev. Everyone that's in these seats that went to the school is a part of Miss Ruby and Rev. Why are we a part of it? Because they gave us their best at everything that they did. So what I'm telling you now today, as we celebrate her, let us not just forget about this time when we leave. Well, let's take her legacy and pass it on to our generation, to our kids. Teach our kids that it does not matter who you are or what other people think about you. It's what you think about yourself.
Amen.
That the best is yet to come. Amen.
And as far as even the discipline that we receive now, it was hard now because, listen, tie strap and a fan belt, you already know that hurt, right? But that's what's missing today. To me, that is what's missing in schools today. They took the discipline out of schools. And the other thing that I remember so profoundly, those recitations that we had to learn. That was Easter and Christmas and Thanksgiving. And they wasn't no Bonnie, how I love you so. You took away my Easter egg and dropped it on the floor. Oh, it wasn't that. And every day, she would march us over to the church, and we had to practice. And we could not get up there with a piece of paper. So, so again, as I have grandchildren now, it's missing. Those things are missing in school today. But I loved it. I remember chasing the chickens.
Yes, you did.
I remember climbing these trees with my dress on. All of that. I was the one that came home. All my barrettes was gone. My dress was ripped. And my clothes looked like the dirt.
Yes.
But I had a good time, and I have good memories from coming to Faith Memorial. I remember if Mom and Dad was late, we would go upstairs and we would do our homework. She would even give us something to eat sometimes. So I love coming here. And in closing, every Sunday morning and sit in that back right corner. And after service was over, while everybody was congregating in the yard, Miss Ruby would hand me her Bible in her purse and give me a quarter. And I'd have to walk up those steep stairs to her apartment. Even talking about it, I'm scared. Up those stairs to put her purse and her Bible in her house and come back down. And I'd be holding on to that rail, praying I didn't. And another fond memory of Miss Ruby, Nicole said, Easter. I didn't go to her school, but I had to have a speech. And I always had to play a piano piece. That means I had to practice extra hard. And there's plenty of days I didn't go outside between the day I got that speech and Easter, but Johanna Brown was not going to let me embarrass her. That was a no-no. So I learned those speeches, and like you said, they were not short. But I remember if you froze or you got nervous, Miss Ruby would walk over and hold your hand. Mm-hmm. But you said that speech. I had to say it. And my last fond memory, and I'm proud to say I did this, was at her funeral. I remember holding that cross, and it's a newspaper clipping. And I'm holding the cross, and behind me is the crowd, the people. It was a mass of people. Yeah. And that just showed me, like she said, how far everything she did reached, all the people she touched. Yeah. And I am so glad I got to know Miss Ruby Forsythe. Yeah. Thank you.
This will be candid. I will edit it, and so don't worry about sounding silly. You won't sound silly.
But that's first off, I'm almost 71. It don't matter whether I sound silly anymore.
I like that.
Who cares?
Attitude. So
Who
many
cares?
People, see, we need more people like that, because sometimes it's like pulling teeth getting someone to talk on camera. Well, first, tell us your full name and tell us your relationship with this place where we are today.
Okay. My name is Johnny Ruth Dees, and I'm a lifelong resident of Pawleys Island. I attended Faith Memorial from 1959 to 1968. Kindergarten through 8th grade. But back then we didn't have kindergarten. It was little first and big first. So, and my father graduated from here, 11th grade. And I don't know what year. I have the diploma at home somewhere, but I can't find his diploma. My uncle also graduated here, Norman Dees, and my father was Isaac Dees. But my Uncle Norm, when he retired, he came back and volunteered here for many years until the school closed. Some of my fondest memories here, well, let me just say, one memory I have, it wasn't at the school, but I went to high school in 9th grade, public school, went to Howard for 2 years and graduated from Winyah after 2 years. But what I realized was that I felt very safe here. Mm-hmm. When I went to public school, I was scared out of my mind. It was a whole different environment. So that's one of the things that I realized after leaving here, that I felt very safe in this environment. And I just remember being in classrooms with my friends. Over there used to be what we used to call back the field. That was our playground. It had a very large swing set, and then it was an open field. There was nothing else back there, but we used to play ball and that kind of thing. And it probably wasn't that far, but to us, it was way back there, you know. And over in that area over there, we used to play under the trees. We used to play house and what have you, you know. The boys and girls weren't really allowed to play together, so the girls would go off at that time. The other thing I remember is we couldn't wear pants.
Miss Ruby didn't like that.
No. So I'm sure I'm in a dress today. Oh gosh, I was going to say something else and it just...
Did Miss Ruby teach your father as well? Because she was here for what, 50 years? Or
I don't remember if she taught Daddy. I know some other people were here before. And I don't think Reverend Forsythe, her husband's name, I don't think his name was on Daddy's diploma. I don't remember whose name. I know he was here. I know they were here when Daddy was here. But I'm not sure if she ever taught Daddy, because he had a whole lot of respect for her, and there were certain things that he didn't want her to know about him and his behavior. So I know he had some kind of interaction with her.
We heard earlier there were chickens over there.
Oh, yeah.
And also, I was looking at old photos, and it looked like there was a road that came right through the middle.
To drop the kids off, you mean?
I guess so.
Yeah.
And there was woods back there that maybe paints a little bit more of a picture of just what this campus looks like. And
well, certainly the house and the schoolroom were there. But I remember they used to have summer camps here, the Episcopal church sponsored camps. And there used to be I know it was a bathroom and maybe a shower right there. I don't
And
know
there
if
was
there.
a pool somewhere as
The
well.
pool was over there somewhere.
Okay.
On that side, there was pool, and there was a like the dining hall, a cafeteria or something. Now, I don't remember where they stayed, where the rooms were.
When we first got here, there was a concrete block building right there.
Well, that might have been it. I never went to camp here, so I don't know. Wasn't here in the summertime, so I don't.
You said you graduated from Winyah in Georgetown.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a teacher, and I teach in the Winyah building.
Oh,
It's now
okay.
called the Georgetown
Right,
School, but
right.
I teach there.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we pass on to our students is just the deep legacy of that this building has been an educational building for so long, and one thing we try to teach the kids is this history. And you
Right.
mentioned earlier that this was a safe place, and you go down there and it didn't feel so safe.
And when I say safe, maybe that's not the correct term, because I didn't feel like I was going to be harmed or anything like that. But it was just the
It was a
kids.
different world back then.
The
here
kids
and
were
there.
loud. They were talking back to the teacher under their breath. They were throwing spitballs and just stuff I had never seen. I was
So
just,
not the respect
Right.
and community that she.
Right. It was just because here, if somebody threw a spitball and somebody, she or Reverend Forsyth asked who threw it. Oh, well, we were going to tell. I mean, it wasn't a matter of nobody's talking or anything like that. So everybody knew you couldn't do things like that because somebody was going to tell.
Yeah.
Somebody was going to tell. I mean, it was that level. And the other thing I remember, we used to come, I don't know what time I left home in the morning, but I didn't get back home until like 5 or 6. And I remember my cousins always teasing, said, y'all in school all day long. I was just as happy as I could be. That did not bother me in the least, being teased about that.
So you wouldn't change a thing.
No, I wouldn't change a thing. It's in fact, when I was raising my child, I wish the school was here.
So if there's one thing you would like the future generations to know about Miss Ruby, what's that you would like them to know about her?
I would like them to know that she was a very kind person. I never thought of her as mean. She just wanted us to do our best, and she did not take, I can't do it, or she didn't take excuses. She felt that you could do things, and she inspired you. She insisted that you do it. I mean, there was no I can't. You just buckled down and you did it, because there was no other option. And that's what I want people to know, that they can do whatever they set their minds to. And I'd like for parents to instill in their kids that your kids can do whatever you tell them they can do. Somebody has to be in their corner, and somebody has to be feeding positive into these kids. So I think that's what I liked about her. And for my parents, if she said I could do it, that's what my parents said. And for us, you couldn't come home and say anything about the teacher. Miss Ruby did this to me, or Miss Ruby did that, or she was mean, or whatever. That was not tolerated, because it was obviously you did something. But I mean, I knew better than to do that. But I remember once I went home, and you can't do this now, but I went home with tape over my mouth. And, there was no thought in my mind about taking it off.
You respected her.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to take that advice as a teacher, that that my kids, I don't want them to ever think they can't do something.
Right.
And so I'm going to try to take that, and that's what I'm going to take from today.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for the little interview. Thank you for bringing her memory back for us a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you. So you were telling us earlier, wait till this truck passes, but if you could tell us your name again, and what you were telling us earlier about when y'all were playing here and the boys and girls were separate, and what was life like here?
Oh, my name is Patricia Session. I'm great now, but it was Patricia Session up here at Miss Hillside. I started out in kindergarten. I think I've been 4 years old, something like that. And I stayed here until 1958 when I went to Howard High School in Georgetown, South Carolina. But this is the best elementary, best training I've seen school-wise. When I went to Georgetown, I was lost. But one thing Miss Ruby always taught you, don't never say no, always say you'll try. And I stuck with that. My mother went here. I can't tell you what year now. I went here. I had 4 daughters. Or 4 of my girls went to this school. The oldest one, she just retired after 40 years in nursing. She lives in Edison, New Jersey. The second one, she's a military traveler every way. She has her doctorate degree. She is the principal assistant. I said, well, you do all the work. Why you don't want to be the principal? She said, no, they only make $1 more than I do. And the third one, she teaches at a daycare center in Alabama. And my baby girl, she's on a photo order with Miss Forsythe in class. She's a consul at a high school in Charlotte, North Carolina. But during the time we here with the play, the boys and the girls never did play together. If the boys play up front in the morning, the girls in the back of the field. That's what the field back there. Vice versa for the afternoon. But never interact, not at all. Not whatsoever. And the bench that we had, the bench that was around the tree, is the best thing. In the classroom, there's schoolhouse there. That little room in there where you used to go up that step and go in that little room. You go into class, blackboard, you had to go up there and math. That's why I love math today. You got to go step by step, explain everything. Because if you don't know how to explain it that way, before I'm sure they know that somebody else did your work for you. But if you didn't, and you get thinking, they had the scrap that they had was I know the inner tube of white, it was a belt, fan belt. That's what it was. Open hand, you get that looking at. If you do like that, oh no, don't do that. Even on your leg and everything. Which I mean, I didn't get too many whippings because I tried to do what I had to do. And Bible, the question we had there then, I said, where this question come from? They must have come from Africa, overseas somewhere. That's what I used to say until I grow more and more, and then I understand and realize that even the songs that we have, and right now our alma mater is Vale. I love that song. What a mighty fortress we have. I love it. When the rehearsal we used to have for graduation, oh, it was beautiful. You dressed in white. And you did not come to school with a short dress on. It has to be long. If you came, Miss Forsythe would rip all the hemming out and you go home just like that. And the boys them had to have their hair cut down low, but if they don't, Reverend Forsythe would go upstairs and get a bowl and come back and put it on the head and he would cut the hair. I remember one parent got so mad, he came back the next morning fussing about his son. He said, didn't I tell you to keep his hair cut? So he cut him for him, but that's it. But I must say, this is my memory right here in school, as school-wise. I had to get used to it in the house. But I enjoyed every moment. And my girls did that camp. They had camp over here. My girls, 2 of them used to come to camp. We used to walk when the Reed Mall, that building. The cafeteria was over there and the swimming pool. But other than that, the sports they used to fix lunch sandwiches for us. Milk. That's why I don't drink milk today. So much milk. She would go upstairs. She had a little candy and different stuff cookies you could buy. They'd go up there and buy the little cookies and stuff. Sometimes it didn't bother if you didn't have the money or anything. She'd make sure that you had something to eat. But I enjoyed it except in time. If you didn't do your work, you had to stay till dark. You had to walk. I said, only God, grace, and mercy. When I look back, how did I make it? But I said, God brought me through. You don't know where you walking going at. You just walk, it was dark. We didn't have no lights and stuff like that going home. And a path back there was a pond back there. Used to walk back through that wood there. We had the water flowing. We had to walk on the old pond and come in. But just like I say, it was all worth it for me and my girls also. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to that.
It's a perfect story. Thank you for your memories of your time.
You're quite welcome. There's a lot
Thank you for y'all are keeping Miss Ruby alive.
Oh,
that's our
yes,
goal.
Yes.
Would you like to? Do you have any good stories about Miss
It's not
Ruby?
really stories because I came here. I was very young.
All right, now.
I was very young. I was
Thank you.
I did well at that time they didn't call them free K or nothing like that. It was low first and high first. That's what they used to say. And I was here maybe 3 years. That was like in 59, 60, 61. And so I'm Bernadette Reed, my Curtin at the time. My father is from this area, and then he passed away at an early age. And so Then my mom moved back to Browns Ferry area,
Mhm.
which is in Georgetown County also. So therefore, I moved left here and went to Browns Ferry School. But I remember here because this is my first, like you say, stomping ground. And I remember the bell and ringing and all that. Like you said, class was upstairs. Reverend Forsyth taught upstairs, and she was downstairs. And to piggyback on what she said about the food, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. That's what we had, and milk, like she said, milk. And what was amazing is that after my father died, my mom was having a hard time, and Miss Ruby would come and bring us food, like the cheese and bread and potato. You know, she didn't have to do it, but she would find my mom's house. She came over and she did it. So I guess back in maybe the 70s, my mom, because we lived in North Carolina also, and then my mom would come and she came to thank her, visit her, you know, back and forth. At that time, I must have been like 12, 11. So I remember one day, I must have been in my mid-20s, maybe 29, going on 30. I said, I'm going to go and just check on her and see if she remembers me. And when I came up here, she was here. And what amazed me is the fact that I should have looked different at that age. When I walked up here, she knew exactly who I was. And I'm thinking, oh, gosh, last time I saw her, I was about 11. I'm almost 30. And she knew who I was. And I got my, you know, I guess she said start from her. And I just thought it was amazing that she could remember me from that age to when I was grown. But I thanked her for the beginnings because we had the spanking going on and the bell ringing and the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and those are the memories I have of her. And in that one-room classroom, sitting by a heater, you know, we had like the wood heater in the middle, and that would warm the classroom, and they were, you know, keeping us warm. So that's the memory. I didn't graduate from here, nothing. I just went through 3 years, but it left the impact.
It seems amazing that, I mean, it really sounds like it was the Reverend and Miss Ruby running the whole school.
That's what it was.
I mean,
one was upstairs with the upper grades. She was downstairs with the lower grades.
And did they have anyone else? Like no staff?
Nope.
Just two of them.
Just the
That's
two of them.
amazing.
No staff.
Even in a small
now,
school,
after
that's
I left,
amazing.
they may have gotten a staff because, you know, I was only like, you know, but she was in the classroom by herself. We, you know, run, Jan, Dick, Tom, Harry, all that little stuff. She was teaching all of us, and that was that. And everybody learned too, because you had to learn. Either you did or you didn't. Like you say, powwow.
Okay. Well, so you grew up here?
Yes, in Merle's Inlet. Yeah.
Well, tell us, what was this community like back then? Tell us about, and did you ever come to Baskerville or to this?
Yes, my sisters went to school here. My twin sisters went to school here. And so we used to have to come on Saturdays. Miss Ruby used to have everybody, the parents and them come on Saturdays to help clean the building. So I was roped in to come in and help cleaning on Saturdays with my mom and the kid when it was my mom's turn.
That actually answers some questions because we were trying to figure out, you know, it seemed like Miss Ruby and the Reverend Forsyth ran the school all by themselves, but they had help. They had volunteers, family.
Yes, everybody volunteered. Yes.
But there was no staff. There was no janitors.
Not that we were the janitors, the parents, the community.
And you didn't even go there, but you were the sister, and you.
Right.
Well, tell us. Well, what were some of those days like, and what were some of the things that y'all did here? You know, to help out. Did you ever have to do the chickens and the chicken coop?
Oh no, we cleaned the building. We helped clean the inside the classroom and stuff. I didn't deal with the chickens and stuff, the outside stuff, only the inside stuff.
What about the camp? Were you ever involved with the camps?
Now, my brother went to the camp, but I didn't go to the camp. I was older, so I went to...
Learn to swim here?
I did, but I learned to swim years later. I came here to swim when I had kids. I brought my son here to learn how to swim. So we took swimming lessons together here. So that was nice.
I wish
there was a time when this was the place to learn how to swim.
Yeah, that's the only pool we had in the area.
I wish we still had something like that here. I wish that we still, and I know pools are, especially a pool of that age is...
they're dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Insurance, but...
It's a loss to not have it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if there's so we're just trying to capture any sort of memories or that have to do with Miss Ruby. Is there anything else that maybe comes to mind? Anything that you would like future generations to know about this area and the legacy that the Forsyths leave behind?
The future generation to know about Miss Ruby, that they were tough, they were stern, but they loved the community, they loved the kids, and they made sure the kids learned when they came to Miss Ruby. I mean, when you came to Miss Ruby, you can step out anywhere. Once you left the school, I think the school went from like to 6th or 8th grade or something like that. It didn't go to high school.
That's right.
So, and a lot of the kids, when they came from Miss Ruby and they came into the regular school, they were like a grade ahead of us. They were younger than us, but they were like it because Miss Ruby taught them on a different level than we did. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. What was your full name again?
Vanessa Alston.
Vanessa Alston.
Alston.
Did you know
Well, thank you.
Ruthenia Austin?
Who was that?
Ruthenia Austin.
Ruthenia.
Ruthenia Austin.
Mm-hmm.
She
I know Ruthina, but her last name is Frazier.
Proudly, student, Holy Cross Faith Memorial School. I am so proud to be here this afternoon. I am honored. Miss Ruby played a great part in my life and everybody else's life, but I'm going to talk about me. Okay? I learned so much from Miss Ruby. She's still a part of my heart and my soul. Now, don't get me wrong. When I was here, I wanted to get away from here. I made the promise to our Heavenly Father, if I ever grew up and have a family and have children, it wasn't coming here. But guess what? My one son graduated from Holy Cross Faith Memorial School. We had a great time here. We had to learn. Our parents sent us to school to learn. We would walk to school. I lived on, it was a dirt road. It done got modern, now it's Pettigrew. But we had to walk through the woods. There wasn't any houses, no great big houses. You could count them on one hand. But we knew we had to get here on this ground. And we had to stay outside until we heard that bell. Miss Ruby coming from downstairs. And we would hear that bell. And we would stop talking and playing. And we would line up to the back door. Not one word. She told us to come in. We would come in. Good morning, good morning. And we would go to our seat, still not talking, not one word. And we would sit. But the first thing we would do would say our Father prayer. That's always what it was before we get going. Miss Ruby, on the other side was red, the partition. But Miss Ruby went to the 4th grade. But we knew after she called the roll, she would separate us in that one room. And we would get our work. You better get your work. And she would come around and check on us. I mean, it was, to think about it, I don't know how she did it, but she did. And we listened. We listened. She was a real teacher. Not all this modern stuff. She was a real teacher. What she taught us, we learned. Now, when I left here, I took Miss Ruby with me. I went to the Paulus Island Child Care Center. That's where I started working with children. Miss Ruby only came half the way with me because the Paulus Island Child Care Center was completely state-owned. So I had to sneak to teach my children in my classroom. And when they came, I hid my books and everything. But one day, one beautiful day, Miss Jackie's daycare was born. And guess what? It could have been called Miss Ruby's daycare because she came along with me.
That's right.
And everything she put in me, I taught to my children.
That's right.
They had to perform.
Oh, yeah.
They had to get the ABC, and I'm not saying ABC. They had to recognize everything. That was put in me, and I taught to my children. They said when my children left to go to kindergarten, they could read and write. Because I wasn't put there to babysit, I was put there to teach. And I love, I could appreciate it after I left, but like I said, I wanted to get with it. It wasn't a bed of roses here.
No.
I didn't appreciate it until I grew up. But one thing I tell you that's still in me. Oh, I love to perform. Anybody can tell you that. Because we had to do it here. Miss Ruby would write our speeches. We had to learn it. Learn it. Not stand up there and read it. You had to, and it wasn't one or two verses. One or two lines. It was verses. And I did the same thing with my 4 and 5-year-old children. Some of the parents said, oh, they can't learn that. But they did. I've had parents, because my husband built a stage for me at Miss Jackie's daycare. My children graduated, and they stood 2 and 3 verses I wrote for them. I didn't send it home, and they learned it. Don't tell me what a child can't learn. Miss Ruby said, can't is dead. She told us to dig a hole and put it in there and keep moving. Always try. Always try. Never say never. Always try. But let me tell you one thing that really hurt my heart, and I'm getting down. I guess y'all know I'm long-winded. I can't help it. It's a family trait. One day, my family slant friend, I heard her call me this name, and I thought I was, Mary Frances, where are you? She called me. Whoa! Did you come up here, Mary Frances? You heard what she called me? Get up here, Mary Frances. She called me. What did you call me?
Miss Ruby.
And here she said, it's music when she said it. When I first heard it, I thought I was dreaming. I thought, get on the side of me. I thought I was dreaming, And this woman called me Miss Ruby all the time, not just one time. If we are at church, on the phone, just in conversation, she called me
Miss Ruby.
Oh my goodness, it does something for me. That's one of my, besides giving birth, that's one of my favorite things. I want to thank you for your time, and our Heavenly Father bless each and every one.
Amen. All right, Bubba. All right, Bubba. All right, Bubba.
Bring that bell down. We got a bell. We got a bell. Yes, we're gonna take an intermission here, but there are cupcakes up front. Come grab one. It is a celebration. So come have a cupcake, and then we'll have a few more remarks, and then who knows where the night will go. Who knows? Who knows?
I'm going to talk a little bit about Miss Ruby and my experience in her classroom for years. I worked with Miss Ruby for years, sometimes all day, sometimes 2 and 3 hours in the afternoons after I get off from my job at Waltham Elementary. I came over and would help her in the classroom, and that went on since 1978 to 92. I work along with Ms. Ruby and the classmate, and I learned a lot from her, and I've used a lot of her strategy in the classroom. Even now, I do summer camp, and I use a lot of her teaching with my students at summer camp. And some of the parents have said to me, I'm going to get to Ms. Ruby, how can my child learn so much in 6 weeks, and it take them forever to learn something in 9 months? But it's just the strategy we use. Okay, Ms. Ruby Middleton Forsythe. Let me tell you a little bit about her now. To all who knew her, a friend and a teacher, she was born in Charleston, South Carolina on June the 27th, 1905. Her elementary and high school education was received at Avery Institute in Charleston, South Carolina. She received a BS from South Carolina State College and started her teaching career and 1929. Her teaching consists of 67 years, 15 in Charleston and 52 at Holy Cross Faith Memorial School here. Total 67. Plus, she taught the little things that count: discipline, respect, let me say that again, respect, social responsibility, and the Holy Bible. The Holy Bible. She would often say these things would take you further in life than money. The ringing of her brass school bell meant it was time for each student to enter school for the cultivations of their mind to commence. Upon entering the classroom, it was "Good morning, Miss Ruby." Some of them would say, "Good morning, Miss Shuby." She instilled in them that prayer is the key to success, which is how she would start her class each morning. In their prayers, she taught the students to thank God for their mommies, dads, teachers, friends, and even those who have prepared the food for them. Afterwards, she would ask them, God gives you the strength to do, she would tell them that God gives you the strength to do some good every day in your lives. So be more like Christ. During the course of the day, you would hear the students saying, "No, ma'am." "Yes, ma'am, Miss Ruby." She did not accept no or yes for an answer. Ms. Ruby instilled in her students never to use the word "I can't" or "I don't." Always say, "I'll try." Because God has given you something in your head, he wants you to use it. She had several remedies. Number one, her classroom remedies. But just to mention a few, even though Ms. Ruby was small in stature, but she stood tall in her words. Her behavior remedy was simple. She would not put up with foolishness from her children. And if you don't want that, she would tell the parents to enroll them in another school. Not following the rule meant a paddle. A paddle even if your friend loosed your hair. That was my experience. Her homemade remedies for bad languages include nothing but a little peroxide and a little bit of and water. She mixed the two together, poured it in their mouth until it started bubbling, and they were certainly thinking that they were going to die. But it cured the bad languages. The remedy for the pocketbook. Ms. Ruby would say to her students, leave your pocketbook at home. When you fill up your head with reading all your books, then your head will fill up your pocketbook. The remedy for the calculator. She was against a child using calculator until they laid a good foundation to depend upon themselves. She would always say, develop the mind first. The remedy for giving. And to those who were less fortunate than they are. Her boys and girls would race to fill up their jars with pennies from home to give to the Pawleys Island Rescue Squad toward a new ambulance in 1991. They raised over $750 in pennies that year. When asked by one of her students, a 9-year student, Benjamin, describe your 80 years old teacher to us. He said, Ms. Ruby knows it all, has it all, sees it all, and she don't even have to turn her head. She knows our voices. She knows our handwriting. She even knows if mommy, daddy, our big brother, or sister did our homework. All I can say is she knows it all. When asked about her graduates who excel, she would say, I don't take the credit. I saw the willingness in them, so I pushed them just a little harder. Her philosopher of teaching was, I like the idea of sowing the best seed into whatever soil we come in contact with. Watch the growth and the reproduction of that product sent forth. Ms. Ruby received many awards, degrees, honorary degrees, recognition through various colleges, newspaper articles, books, television, and for her miraculous teaching at Holy Cross Faith Memorial School. But she often said, teaching was not for the money. She often said teaching was not for the money, but she wanted her children to have a chance at a better life, and her work for her children and her work was for her children and to the glory of God. Ms. Ruby have left an impact on many lives all over the state of this great nation. Her life, the life that she have touched, will always be remembered. For many of her students, the great work. Thank you.
Well, so first off, as you mentioned earlier, you're one of 3 generations that came here.
Yeah.
So what's your name, and tell us, I guess, who is the first generation that came to this school? And
my name is Ricky Nelson Brown, and my mother, Nancy Louise Brown, my mother was the first one here. And then I came, and then my daughter, Shanielle Brown, she came. That was the 3rd generation. We all went here. And I have so much fond memories. I can just go on and on. But one thing I can truly say is that I give honor to God, who's the head of my life, because this is where it started. From a spiritual point of view, biblical knowledge, it all started here. You know, I remember reciting the 23rd Psalm, the 100th Psalm. Those were all very natural. Those things that we did on a daily basis. And I was 4 years old when I first came here. When I left, I was 12, going on 13 when I left. So me and my other 2 brothers, I'm the oldest of 3 boys, and she taught all of us, you know. And one thing I can truly say, she helped me to motivate myself, you know, knowing who I am. And then like now, I'm a custom home paint contractor and a builder, and I'm 3rd generation, you know. I was just speaking to them. My dad painted the school, and after I graduated from high school, me and my dad painted the school. So I had a lot of memories of the school. And another thing is that Ms. Ruby would always show us who we are. You know, that's something that I'll never forget, because it made me who I am today. You know, having that confidence that you can do it. You know, with the help of the Lord, you can do it. You know, and that's one of my things now, because I put God first, because that was first introduced to me through Ms. Ruby and Reverend Forsyth. They had a strict biblical part about all the teaching. You know, and of course we know the discipline was there, because that's where you learn, and you learn vividly, because if you didn't, you would be chastised. You know, and it kept me out of prison. You know what I'm saying? It kept me out of jail. That's why I'm successful today, because of those type of discipline that I received when I was a kid. You know, and I tell people all the time, you know, when I look at how things are now, and I can tell them when they took prayer out of school, they planted a seed. Now you're reaping a harvest from that seed. That's what's going on in the world today. You know, but it all goes back. You know, I'm a Bible believing person, so I have to acknowledge God in everything. Because nowadays, only way you're gonna get it right, you gotta go back to the Word. Because that's what's gonna keep us all straight. You know, and I'm thinking this has been a great tribute, you know, to her, because, you know, I never thought, back then, you never thought they were gonna die. You know, it was just that way of thinking, that they're gonna be here forever. You know, but as time progresses, we get to see that, you know, but the legacy is here. And the proof is here, like I am the proof of her legacy, you know. You know, we are fruits from that tree. And Ms. Ruby is the root. And so the roots don't never die. We just bloom all over, you know. I got grandkids, and they got the same thing they got in me. I push to them. So Ms. Ruby still lives in all of us, you know. I just want to be commended to that. I'm
a teacher, and you know, it's tough now because you can't discipline the kids,
right?
And all the kids have cell phones, and they took God out of school,
exactly. Yeah.
And I even can get in trouble for even bringing religion into the classroom, and it's so frustrating. And hearing this today, it's like, you know, how can I harness some of Miss Ruby's energy? How can I do that, but in the modern classroom? And you know, I'm learning that maybe if only we could take a step back to these ways of doing things.
One thing I truly can say is that I'm glad I came up in a time the parents had control of the kids.
Yeah.
where parents were in control. Because nowadays things are all different, you know. And I want people to understand, just because society says right, if it goes against God's word, it's not correct. So that's what we have to do, go back to the word, because that's going to always be the same, yesterday, today, and forever.
Great.
So, you know, that's my greatest thing that they put in me, and I'm using it today.
One last thing is, it seems like, so Miss Ruby's kids, they have after school programs, and they're going to be bringing those programs back to the schoolhouse.
Right.
How does that make you feel that students will once again be in the schoolhouse?
Well, that's because it goes back to the old time, you know, and I keep saying, as long as you involve in a child's life, you can discipline them, teach them, you know, because right now, social media, technology have taken the rights away from parents and everything. But if you go back to that, you can instill principles in them that should be there, because social media is not going to do it. You know, they like stuff, they do a lot of negativity, you know, and that's not what it's all about.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, I'm just glad that I'm to the point now that I don't have to raise a child in this environment, because it's a lot harder than when I came up.
It's a little stressful worrying about it.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you. To make sure they were still in place. So I've been one of them. Once you got to 8th grade,
so like the
property lines. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Once you got in 8th grade, he would take you out there, and we would walk out there, and he would show us the property line and everything. Yeah.
That's an interesting lesson. Kids don't learn about that thing. You know, they don't learn about property.
I never forget the time we had a chicken hawk, because we had chickens here. A chicken hawk would come and roost over there, and Reverend Forsyth was saying, "We got to get rid of that hawk. We got to get rid of that hawk." He gave us the shotgun, and the hawk was back on a tree back there, and we walked out there with the gun, and we shot it. But we wasn't able to go get it, but we shot it to make sure it didn't come and take any of the chickens away. I'll never forget that. You know, when you're in 8th grade, you're considered a big boy, you know, so you got a lot of privileges that the other kids didn't get, because they know your next move was going into society, away from them. So they wanted to school you so that you could have the right, you know, ingredients to go out.
The life lessons as well.
Oh, yes.
Life lessons. We need more life lessons in school, too.
Not only epidemic, but I'm telling you, when we went to public school, we were up above everyone that was in our class. And they wondered, where did we learn all that stuff from? And it came right from here. Yep. I'll never forget it.
I guess I've heard that from everybody that studied with Miss Ruby.
Yeah. We were always ahead.
When they got to the public school, they were ahead of the class.
We were ahead of, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
For just any old stories or memories about this community, life here, Miss Ruby, or the Reverend Forsyth, any memories about him?
Well, I can tell you about this community and myself. I grew up here until I was 20. I was very poor. You know, when I came here to Miss Ruby, obviously, this was my first experience or exposure to school. So I didn't really have any culture or understanding of how one's supposed to conduct himself in school. So I was pretty out there, so to speak. In fact, I remember, I think maybe my very first day of school, certainly not more than my third, I socked a person in the nose. That's how uncivilized I was. So I was very uncivilized, but you know, people measure success in a lot of different ways. And for me, I think all of us experience pivotal people in our life. There's usually about five pivotal people in each of our lives. For me, I can say it was about five. I can name them. Miss Ruby and Reverend Forsyth, but mainly Miss Ruby because of how her longevity and her tenacity and her stick-to-itness. She was one of the pivotal people in my life because She taught in an encouraging way. And it was just something that stuck with me. And not only that, um, here I learned how to be civilized, how to conduct myself, how to learn, how to, sometimes you don't realize what you have until afterwards. They say hindsight is 2020. I think in this scenario right here, in this situation for me, hindsight was absolutely 2020 because I didn't realize how much I really had, or the impact or the importance of what was being taught to me when it was being taught to me. Um, but as I went along through life, these were principles, these were standards, these were guidelines, these were thoughts that have never left me. And not only have they never left me, but they've been a guide for me to help me even today and beyond. So it's been something that has been implanted in me, and I contributed to the reason why I'm still here. Because I think, if you don't have a degree of certain barriers, guidelines that can keep you in a certain direction, I think you veer off too far to the left or to the right, and sometimes that could be catastrophic. And I think for me, I'm thankful because I believe that because of the barriers that I learned to adhere to, because I think there takes a degree of want to on one's part, and willingness to adhere to, listen to. It takes some of that on one's part. It's like you say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. It's one of those things where I use this analogy with my kids. I have 3 sons and 2 daughters. And one of the main things that I tell my kids over and over and over and over again, I always tell them to do more than what you're paid for. Do more than what is expected to you. Always go the extra mile. And I always tell them, read, 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 read. Always read. Read your Bible, but read other material too. And in fact, I don't just tell them to read. I'm the example for them. And not only am I the example for them, but I even supply them with a list of books to read. So, and I attribute my developing that mentality started here. It started right here. Not so much the reading, but the discipline and the mentality to be determined. So I think Ms. Ruby, I mean, it's just, when I think about her, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for who she was and what she taught and how she taught it. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful.
She passed when I was 8 years old. So most of my memories of her are from when she came to live with us in Mount Pleasant, when she became ill. But I definitely have memories from being here as a child, particularly the classroom. I would use the platform, I would call it my stage, and I would go up there and sing Whitney Houston songs to my pretend sold out audience. And I would go on the chalkboard and just write and draw and just let my imagination go wild. And at that time, I didn't realize just how transformative those four walls were, not just to me, but to generations of students. I also remember there being chickens here. I don't know if anybody else remembers. So one time when we came up here to visit, I got chased by this big yellow chicken. I don't know, I probably chastised it and that's why it was chasing me. But for some reason I decided to stop, turn around and see where this chicken was, and before I knew it, the chicken was, all I saw were feathers in my face, and I got pet. And I still have a little scar to this day.
Me too.
Yeah. But not all of my memories were around mischief. I remember being loaded up in the car and going to universities and institutions where Grandmommy Forsyth was being honored with an award or honorary degree. And at that time, I may have been 5, 6 years old, so I didn't fully understand what was going on. But I saw her on that stage and the cap and the gown and her being celebrated. And I thought, well, I don't know what's going on, but I definitely want to do this when I get older. And that was the kind of impact she had on me at that age, at just a little girl. And when she came to live with us, her room was right next to mine. So after school, I would go in her room and do my homework, and we'd watch TV, and I'd grab all my dolls, and then I would go in there and talk her head off and play. And I'm pretty sure I annoyed her more than she let on. But for me, those are the memories that I have, just those everyday little moments that mean the most to me. So she had a big impact on me. I became the third generation teacher in the family. I am a dentist. Thank you. I'm a dentist, and I serve as faculty at New York University's College of Dentistry. So I get to teach the next generation of dentists, which is great. And it's remarkable to me that this one-room schoolhouse here in Pawleys Island, South Carolina, is having an impact and is felt in the walls and the classroom, the clinics of NYU to this day. And that's not unique just to me. That is all of us. That's our legacy. And that's with all of you wherever you go. So one of my last memories here as a child was actually attending Grandmommy Forsyth's funeral. Because at 8 years old, I'm thinking, well, my gosh, there's so many people here. Where did they come from? But then my next thought after that was, wow, there's so many people here. She was really loved. And when I look out today, I feel that same feeling. That her influence, even after all this time, is still being felt. And we carry that same legacy with us. So I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that tomorrow is Father's Day. So many of you knew my father, Burns Forsyth, and this is one of the first events that has been held here without him here. And so we definitely feel the weight of his absence, and I know he would have loved to have been here with all of you. I also want to acknowledge my grandfather, Reverend William Essex Forsyth. Yeah.
Yes.
Because even though I didn't get a chance to meet him, he was just as instrumental as she was in teaching and leading the next generations. And I think that that's what my grandmother would have loved the most about this day. Not the awards and the accolades, that's great, but I think she would have loved just hearing the stories from all of you about how she touched your life. And I think that, again, that's a testament to who she was. So whether she was your teacher or your neighbor, your friend, or simply someone who made an impact on your life, thank you all for being here today, and thank you for keeping her legacy alive. Thank you all.
Amen.